Alright, in the name of self-aggrandizement or self-documentation, screw it, let's try a rig rundown of this mess of complete rat's nest of cables. Not everything's in use at once, and it's kind of all over the place at the moment, because it's full of experimentation. But you've got, first up is SaturnWorks buffer pedal. I'm not even really a pedal, just buffer box. So that way I can split the signal out and run it down to paths. Paths number 1, the top white cable, runs sometimes down to the wall pedal, but at the moment it's going straight into the tuner, hiding there underneath everything, into the Wampler Ratsbane, which if you're not familiar with it, go check it out. Into a Friedman BEOD Deluxe, which is definitely Marshall in a box, down to a Blackstar HD Club, which for a while I forgot just how versatile this amp is. The clean channel either has a Voxus voicing or a Fender voicing, depending on which you want to use. The gain channel is either kind of a not quite Marshall, darker vintage British, but not quite orange either, but definitely kind of lower gain British on the vintage side, and then the modern side is definitely trying to channel and summon its inner boogie. I forgot a pit stop on there. We're going into another Wampler pedal, the Wampler Dual Fusion, which on the channel 1 on the right kind of has the Dumble mid-hump thing going on, and on the left kind of the Klon overdrive thing going on, the quote transparent end quote, which isn't transparent at all. In the loop of the Blackstar, we've got the two pedals sitting on top of the amplifier, a Digitech Polara, which is a very interesting reverb, and that runs into, yes, into, not out of, a Boss DD200, because let's face it, nobody's believing you're actually sitting in a room with that reverb. It's an effect same as everything else, so screw with your pedal order, guys. On the other side, coming off of the SaturnWorks, we run the green cable into the Boss SY200 synthesizer, which is really freaking insane and a lot of fun. You can use it on the 4-wire method. I'll probably hook it up as the full 4-wire method at some point. At the moment, it's also used as a Y box. There is a loop where I could punch in any pedals I want and then fade in the dry signal as I want to. But at the moment, I'm going straight. Wet signal is going into another Digitech pedal, the Jamman Solo XT looper, into the Obscura delay, also from Digitech. And then that output is going down into the Supro Titan. And this, you look at the Supro documentation, they say the Titan's a pedal platform amplifier. I have found you got to be really careful with the pedals you run into this thing, because, for example, the Friedman and Wampler pedals I've got are just eaten alive by this thing. They don't really have their full majesty. On the flip side, cheap-ass Behringer pedals work great with it. But at the moment, Behringer pedals are running off of the guitar out, basically the dry out on the synth, over to the Behringer Super Fuzz, clone of the Boss Fuzz pedal, over to their vintage tube overdrive from Behringer, which is a Tube Screamer clone. Both of them good clones. And then that runs into the classic metal amp, the PV6505 microhead version, which really, who needs 100 watts? 20 watts is plenty. At the moment, it's not using the power break on top. It is just running straight into its cabinet, running down here, which is a Fender bass breaker cabinet with a sweater on top. It's an open back cabinet. Sounds surprisingly good with the PV amp. Other amplifiers that get called into use at various times. I'll be honest. This is was supposed to be Panama's high gain metal amp. It's a Marshall clone. It looks beautiful sitting um, on your cabinets. Their cabinets were also just as beautiful. I just never bought any. But I mean, maybe because technically this one was a probado amplifier bought through drop.com as opposed to straight from Panama. It needs some tube work or something. It doesn't quite, just sounds off at this point, but it does. It is a Marshall clone. It is a dual channel clone, so you can certainly. It seems to be more JCM than Plexi. I've not looked up the circuit to see if that's actually the case or not, but it's a good amplifier when it's a good mood, but it very much just wants to be a rock machine. Just pretty much pump some pedals into the front, hook it up to probably a 4x12. I've only used it by 1x12, and let it run. It doesn't like things in its loop. Doesn't even necessarily like its gain channel that much. Pretty much dime the clean channel out, run it through a power attenuator, and let it roar like the old Marshall circuits. It's just not seeing a lot of use these days, so may find somebody to mod it and tweak it, who knows. Or it's probably going to sit there and look pretty for a long time. Over here, the orange Micro Terror Dark. Which, with the fact that it has an effects loop, puts it as better than the plain Micro Terror. It sounds pretty good. It's got a good clean tone to it. And of course, it's kind of got that orange great breakup as you push it. It's got 112AX7 and then a Class D solid state power amp behind it. So it's good for getting orange sounds. Underneath, move the power supply, which kept falling off. The Hughes and Kettner, which goes up nice and bright blue when it's on. Also, this one's a very pedal platform friendly amplifier. That clean side does not like to break up, and the gain side really does have to be punched. You've got to hit it with a tube screamer or a rat or something to really get the most out of this amplifier. Below that is the Laney Ironheart, which is a whole lot of fun. Mostly because of, it's got a tweaker's worth of knobs. Each of the each of the EQ stack knobs have a pull switch on them to shift their cue point. And it goes from very much very classic British Laney up to a lot of modern sounds on that gain channel. It also has a built-in boost, which is pretty effective. Don't recommend using the boost with the clean, because that doesn't serve any point, because clean pretty much bypasses the entire tone stack, seems like it bypasses most of the preamp and just dumps you straight into the power amp tubes. So the clean is a very pedal friendly clean channel. It really loves the Friedman BEOD Deluxe, so it is quite easy to turn this thing into a 6 or 10 channel beast with the right cabling. It's also, this is the Laney Ironheart Studio. As you can tell from the rack ears, it wants to be mounted, or rack ears which are missing from it, because I bought it used. It wants to be mounted in a rack in a studio. It has a straight up XLR out, which is non-emulated. There's no mic emulation coming off of it. The Hughes and Kettner has the red box built in it. PV has mic and cabinet quote emulation. But the Laney is straight up, we're just giving you just the sound of the amplifiers. We're not dicking around with it. And you can just throw on whatever impulse responses you want onto the end of it. From there, I've got 2 more power brakes that I tend to use with these guys. The Laney is currently feeding Harley Benton Celestion loaded vintage cab, which, if you've heard Glenn Franker rant about how great these are, it's pretty damn good. And then back here is the cab I need to experiment with at some point. That's a Jet City. It's got their kind of cheap-ass eminence, I believe, in it. It's a speaker. It needs upgrading. So that is everything going on at the moment. I'm not doing a whole lot with plugging things into the effects loop on these amplifiers at the moment, although all these heads do have their effects loops wired down into a patch bay down here, so I don't have to like move things around to get to them, although I still have to move things around to get to speaker connections. But that's 10 minutes of me rambling about all the shit I'm running my guitar signal through.